5 scary Idaho horror stories. Oh boy, something a little closer to home for me. By Swamp Dweller. I do like this intro animation. It kind of goes hard. I think it's kind of cool.
We finally made our way into Idaho on this road trip of scary stories we're doing. A place known for its famous potatoes, and also its famous cryptid and paranormal stories.
It's really funny because potatoes aren't even our biggest export, it's sugar beets.
Welcome back to the swamp, my friends, and welcome if you're new. Today I'm going to be sharing some creepy and allegedly true horror stories sent in by viewers just like you from the great state of Idaho. Or, well, if you even want to call it a state. Just kidding, just kidding.
No. He's right. We're just a potato factory psyop. He's absolutely correct.
Anyways, if you have a story that you would like to share in a future episode, be sure to submit your story at swampdweller.net or the email you can find in the description down below. I would love to share your story no matter where it's from. Now, let's get into these creepy and allegedly true Idaho horror stories that'll keep you out of the potato state tonight.
I love how Chad is just like, what do you mean potatoes aren't your biggest export? Yeah, it's sugar beets, actually. Cover up. Yeah, cover up for the sugar, 100%.
Nobody has believed me when I told them this story, but I swear to God it was true. I was in my front yard in Idaho one summer night, smoking a cigarette all by myself. There's a warehouse-style aluminum building that resales used construction materials and has an odd collection of all sorts of windows, bathtubs, barbecues, trusses, and other things in the yard out back.
Mm-hmm.
I heard some strange noises that sounded like someone banging something against the building, or knocking hard. The building is backed up to the bottom of a mountain. The mountain range goes on for probably a couple of 100 miles to the east, with only one sparse town about 40 miles from my house.
I almost wonder if this is North Idaho? Might be east. I'm trying to think. Because Idaho does border the Rockies on to the east of us is the Rockies.
The rest is just desert, a giant expanse of empty desert. I have heard these noises a lot over by this building throughout the years. I always assumed the noise must be made by a human, but this scenario has always seemed very unlikely to me, as there are no homeless people in my town and no one lives in that direction as it is an industrial park. Now that doesn't mean people aren't snooping around. What the noise is something banging on the building or knocking on it in quick succession. There is no animal I know of that would be able to bang on the building that hard, and for no reason. Why would...
So you know how I was talking about another reaction about how if I'm home alone? Yeah, so my dog is now barking, so give me a second. Because I should be the only one home at this hour. Sorry about that. So, as it turned out, had to make sure there were people working outside. And I'm just like, we don't have anyone scheduled to work out there as far as I'm aware. So I had to go, stop, freeze, make sure that I'm like, okay, what's going on? Made a call and they're just like, yeah, no, I called this company and then they're supposed to be out there. So, as it turns out, what you're supposed to do in that situation, resume.
They'd be doing this at midnight or 1 a.m. Sometimes I get so frightened when I hear this noise and just go back inside. But for whatever reason, on this night in particular, I had it. I had enough of it. I was ready to go see what this was. I wanted to know what this was. So I manned up and decided to go investigate.
Sounds like trespassing.
I got over there and had the feeling I was being watched, but kept heading around the back of the building to see if I could hear anything else. Now at this point, I got hit from behind by a spotlight and went, oh great, somebody reported me, and now I'm going to have to explain myself to the police. I turned around fully ready to tell the cop that I had heard something breaking into the building, but there was nothing there. No cop, no source of light, absolutely nothing. I fully saw the spotlight hit me and saw my shadow on the building in front of me. I couldn't identify where to come from, but at this point, I had an awful feeling of dread and started back across the street toward my house. As I was getting close to the street, I saw what looked like a small dog with shaggy hair. The hair was so long it seemed to be covering its eyes. It was so late, I figured it was lost and I thought I could go over and check his tag and bring him home. The strange thing was, it was getting up and looking into the windows of an engineering firm.
I mean, I don't know. Seeing potential stray dog, I don't know, not my first reaction. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a good Samaritan. Maybe I'm just not cool enough. But my first thing is just like, yeah, that is and dog. I'm just gonna let the dog go about its way. I don't know if the dog has rabies or something. I don't know. Not my first intuition.
I have never seen a dog set up on its hind legs and looking into windows like this, but I figured it's probably hungry and looking for food or something. I came very close to it without making a sound because I did not want to make it run off. I knew it must need help. Well, I got to just a few feet away from this dog before it heard me. It turned and looked at me, and I swear it had one big eye where its nose should be.
Nice.
I was shocked, to say the least. It almost looked like a totally white skunk with long shaggy hair, with one big eye right where its nose should be. It went running, but my hunter instinct kicked in, and I jumped in front of it and went to grab it.
Is this Darwinism in full effect at that point? Like, is this... That's gotta be, like, survival of the fittest at a certain point.
I know, this was probably foolish, but at the time I wanted to capture it, or else no one would believe me. It went running the other way, but I cut it off again. I went to grab it, but at this point, it stood up on its hind legs and let out the most terrifying cat-like hissing noise I've ever heard. At this point, my rational mind kicked in and went, if this thing bites me or attacks me, who knows what might happen? I froze and watched it run off across the pavements and field and didn't make a single noise as it ran. I stood there trying to understand what I had just seen and encountered, and still to this day I have no idea what it could have been. Along with the spotlight that hit me from the same direction, and its strange behavior looking in the windows of that engineering firm, I'm still to this day utterly confused on what the hell it was. I have never heard of another cryptid that matches this description.
Yeah, I can't say I have either, unless this is some rural Idaho thing or some regional thing. Yes, clearly it is a man bear pig. I mean, like, and that's one of those things. Like, if somebody, as much as I feel like I'm trashing on it, right? If somebody approaches in good faith and is like, "Oh, this happened," right? I mean, sure, like I'll weigh in, but it's like if somebody feels that this actually happened and it's in good faith, sure. I mean, I'm not going to inherently dismiss you. Right now, if I start catching that you start telling some tall tales, okay, yeah, now we get to have a little bit of a different discussion. But I know a common theme with people in general is something they can't explain happens, and whether it's to their friends, their family, to like officials, right? It's like, how do you explain something? No one's going to believe you, and I think that. As I said, more people, I think, are willing to believe than not, but they need to make sure it's coming from a place of good faith, and they need to make sure that you're not just trying to go Lamal, you just got punked status, right? So, I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with what flavor of Idaho creature that this is, and this definitely does come across as something someone in Idaho would do. Hunter instinct kicks in, and they're just like, "Nah, I need to get this thing." I could see that. This is an interesting story, though.
Hi, I'm a longtime listener to The Swamp. My name is David, and I do security at a mall in eastern Idaho.
Nice.
Now, I have been told it's haunted, and I'll say I've experienced my fair share of paranormal things in my life. I've had several. Just at this mall alone, and I wanted to share one for now, and maybe I'll share more in the future.
I might know where this is, but I also might not. I might know the general location of this.
A little background on me. I have done security for over 13 years and have seen some of the worst in people. I have also done the martial arts for about 29 years, so not scared of much, honestly, and I have a deep set of faith. I'm a Christian and have the gift of discernment, and I'm empathetic.
I have no idea what is meant by gift of discernment. I'm totally lost, man.
I can also feel and see the spiritual world around me. But enough about me.
I'm gonna not, because I very specifically draw that line with religious discussions. Not to hate on it, but because once you open that Pandora's box does not actually shut. We're gonna move on from that one.
I was on a patrol outside my mall one night. I work graveyard shift. I saw I needed to refill my water bottle to stay hydrated. As I pulled up to the mall doors near our security office, I noticed the shape of a figure inside, about as tall as a young teen. I hurried inside thinking, great, someone got in or hid and I did not see them. After entering, I listened and quickly dropped off my water bottle in my office and relocked the door. I went into the mall silent, listening to the dark and waiting to see or hear anything to indicate the presence of a person. I searched the mall occasionally, hearing footsteps and then laughter. I looked in every such place and never could find anybody hiding. There were no teens, no doors opening, and no alarms going off. Nothing was caught on the security footage either. After clearing the mall and getting more water, I went back out to my security vehicle. I didn't see anything until I sat in the driver's seat and looked out my rearview mirror. I saw what looked like a group of teens in all black, with black eyes, and one smiled with a creepy, like, I'm going to get you type smile. I whipped the car around to shine the light on the intruders, not more than 15 feet from me, and they were just gone. There was no way they could run or hide fast enough for me not to see them. I looked nearby and there was nothing. When the morning came, there were no more sightings, but at night I could still hear the laughter at times when I was checking the exterior doors. I don't really know how to explain this one. It's just one of those strange and creepy paranormal things that go on sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a common theme when you start talking about paranormal stories where everything's usually fine, it's, you've never had an encounter, and then allegedly what ends up happening is you have your first encounter, or there is something that happens that is just kind of spark on a pile of tinder, right? And then you just start experiencing thing after thing after thing. Whenever you talk about paranormal, I mean, generally there's kind of an escalation, right? Especially when you start talking about, poltergeists, whether you believe or not, how poltergeist activity can ramp up and then stop in its entirety. And if it starts up again, it will continue to progress far worse. So, I mean, that theme of escalation and inciting incident seems to be very prevalent in at least the paranormal community and discussions. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you can be the biggest, burliest security guard. You can, have no fear, but sometimes you just encounter things you can't explain, and doesn't make you any lesser. Sometimes there's just things that you can't explain. I can tell you in Idaho, when I've had to go down to Boise, I know was the Egyptian theater that allegedly is haunted. I think that might have been on an episode of Ghost Adventures, at least in part. I know that the Idaho State Penitentiary, which I have been to a couple times, never overnight. Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures did go there. And that's actually next to Table Rock, which I've actually hiked a couple times when I've made my way down to that area. Because you can just hike like next to the old Idaho Penitentiary. Like there's a little thing that just like, you just go and hike. And then we joke that there's a bunch of CIA buildings up in the hills there, because I kid you not, we went in the general same area, Camel's Back Park, and we were walking along a back trail there. And there was a couple funny things we saw back there. So one, we were, hiking along, and then I kind of looked up, right? And it looked like, I kid you not, we joked that this was like a Cold War CIA bunker, because it was like, the larger houses on top, right? On top of the hills and stuff. But this thing had, you're like, yeah, this thing probably has security. This thing looked like concrete. This thing looked just, I'm like, we were just joking, like, yeah, that's somebody's safe house. And then actually on that same trail, it was once again, this is on the backside of Camel's Back in Boise. We were hiking there, and even though it's not super far outside the city at that point, we were hiking there, and we came across kind of this clearing under some trees, and there was this like concrete slab, and then there were a bunch of like, how do I word it? Like, when you chop up a tree trunk and you chop it into like little stools, that kind of thing. And they were kind of just arranged. Thus we joked, yeah, this is where the sacrifices happen. To which my buddy ended up laying down on the concrete slab because that's what he does. I mean, regardless of, Idaho has these kinds of things. Idaho has these kind of rumors. Idaho has strange happenings. I'm sure Idaho has strange happenings that I myself haven't heard of, and I'm sure other people go, I'm sorry, you've never heard of this. It's interesting. I think that this state definitely gets a bad rep in a lot of ways, but I think that aside from some of the people who can be kind of mean, and that's an anywhere situation, really. Let's be real. A lot of the people here can actually be pretty cool, as contrary as this would seem to prior statements I've made. Like, it's just there's an episode of Ghost Adventures. They made it to the Egyptian Theater in Boise. Yeah. Do you not do ritual stuff when you're drunk with a boy? Exactly.
I'm 34 years old now, and when this happened, I lived in Plummer, Idaho. I had just discovered with the help of the internet why I could see things nobody else could or didn't want to see. And sometimes I would dream about things that were going to happen, like the time my sister cut her knee open really good on a nail in the floor. In this case, I think I was 12 when this happened. I had just finished a shower and getting dressed when I decided to do some late night homework in my upstairs bedroom before the weekend got going, since I couldn't sleep anyway. I opened my window since it was a nice, warm, comfortable breeze, and I guess I had been sitting on my bed for a while since I started around, I think 7 or 8, and it was now almost midnight. Suddenly, I heard something on the roof. Before I forget to add this, we also had 2 big spruce trees in our backyard, and since it was a bit windy that night...
Ooh, this is super northern Idaho. Okay, I was looking in the other window. I was trying to figure, like, I've heard of Plummer. Oh, okay, yeah, this is super, super far north Idaho. Okay. Actually, if I continue to go up, do I see the Canadian border here? Maybe. It's actually super cool, because, like, I know certain parts of the state, but I don't know a lot of the state, if that makes sense. Yep, there's the Canadian border up there, it looks like. Yeah. That's wild. Actually, it looks like this is near Spokane, Washington, actually. It looks like if you go east from Spokane, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, you go south, that's Plummer. Okay, I know vaguely where this is. That's kind of wild, actually.
I naturally thought it was maybe pine cones landing on the roof. Oh, how wrong I was. I wanted to go outside and get some fresh air, so I went out to my back porch. And I didn't feel like there was anybody out there. I didn't see anything on the fence, nothing in the grass. But then I heard it, scratching, like a cat running on the roof after a bird. Looking up, I saw something by the chimney before it crawled down to the other side to hide. I ran for the back door quickly and quietly and closed it and locked all the locks, and then I ran upstairs to my room. Surprisingly, I forgot all about my window that was open and sat back down and got back to working on my homework. Slowly, I hear a tapping sound. Looking up, I saw one long finger tapping on the window.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No. No. If you hear something, you see something. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You just got to keep working on your work.
As I walked over to it, I heard scratching again, and it was like it was trying to hide. I had just closed it when the face of a girl appeared on the other side.
See, now you pissed it off.
Can I please come in?
No.
I'm cold. No, I don't know you, and my dad will...
Oh my god, what's the meme from Dungeon Soup with the it wasn't the lich, it was the banshee in the swamp. Be gone, foul spirit. Like, my voice can't do it, or else I will actually just, like, oh my god, just can't a good barbarian just screaming, "Be on, foul demon." The fact that was my brain's immediate response. Can we talk about that?
Get upset. Please? No. And as if I had thrown water on her, she changed into this thing with a pale, loose-fitting like skin.
See? You wouldn't have had to deal with this if you didn't talk to the spooky girl, okay? You wouldn't have had to deal with this if you kept working on your work, okay? You acknowledged it. You broke the cardinal rule of you hear something, you see something. No, you didn't. This is your problem now.
To be kind of hanging on its bones. It almost looked like a wet blanket over a hanger. This thing had long, thin arms and eyes that looked endless. They were like black pools of nothingness. In the end, after a few minutes of staring, it screeched like a screech owl, opening its mouth so big I swear I thought it was gonna break its jaw. And then, as if it had no problem, it jumped off the roof and ran across the field into the street. At that point, I decided that was enough, so I put my books away, covered up, and went to sleep. The next morning, before I could tell my dad what happened, he was asking why I was up on the roof last night, and I explained to him that I was definitely not on the roof. I don't know what this thing was. This happened in 1990. First of all, it looked like a little girl asking to come inside, and when I said no, it changed into some weird creature screaming. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to anybody, but if anybody listening to this might have an idea, I'd definitely love to know in the comments.
So when looking up where Plumber was, one of the first Google results is Plumber on a reservation. So obviously insert your skinwalker, Wendigo, etc. mythos here. This seems like a common, at least trope in quote-unquote spooky skinwalker stories, where there's a lot of skittering, there's a lot of moving around. Well, whether it's true or not, I mean, whether, regardless of what section it is, it seems like this is a common thing. I feel like this also goes into the whole, like, what you have to invite a vampire into your house, not equating the two, right? Something, you have to invite something in, you have to acknowledge it in some way, shape, or form, seems very prevalent. And in fact, it also feeds into my reasoning on why I think actual people doing people things is way scary and way more terrifying. The way I understand it as well, and this is one of those things, because I've had a couple discussions on it, the way I understand it as well is discussions regarding such entities from Native American folklore are very insular, very need to know from what I understand. I mean, I've come across multiple videos that describe a skinwalker as a Native American witch. And I hear that and I physically cringe because that feels wrong to even say, like, relaying that. But to be fair as well, I mean, it's one of those things, like, I understand that it's very much insular. I understand that it seems to be very need to know, and I'm perfectly okay with that. What I understand that a lot of the stuff that we get via social media is potentially, allegedly, not the truth. It might even be misdirection, which is perfectly fine. It's one of those things that fascinates me. But like I say with, respecting NDAs and OPSEC, I don't need to know. If there's something that's a cognito hazard, I don't need to know it. Nobody needs to know it. The beats like going on a need to know basis. Oh my god. Yeah. No, I figured when I searched up Plumber, Idaho, and saw the reservation, I'm like, I know where this story is going to probably take a turn to.
When I was in my early 30s, I was living in the small town of Payette, Idaho. I went to a lot of parties, and threw a lot of parties
I think I have a couple friends from Payette.
myself. This story takes place after one party I had thrown at my house. Justin, a friend of mine, had brought a guy over to my house and asked if he could stay with me. This guy was tall and thin, but muscular. He had prison tattoos on his arms and hands, and a crazy look in his eyes.
Like, I mean, obviously, obligatory discussion that not everyone that goes to prison, not everyone that goes to jail is some absolutely unhinged monster, right? I think that we can all kind of agree on that. We can all put on our little common sense caps, critical thinking glasses, and go, okay, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty gross overgeneralization, right? Inappropriate, even. I like how this opens, though. I don't know. This feels like this is a recurring problem with people of, yeah, I just kind of found this guy. Can he just stay, or can he just hang with us? I don't get it. I haven't quite got that. What is it? I saw a meme on Twitter recently that was like girls inviting someone new to the group, and it's just like something. It was like a whole paragraph of just like, birth sign, blood type, etc. Like, oh well, I don't think we can have you quite in yet, Jessica. And it was like guys inviting someone new to the group, and it's just like, yeah, so we found this guy Derek down by the railroad, and we just thought he was cool. Is he cool to hang with us? And it was just, yeah. it made me laugh, honestly, because it feels true. In a situation like this where like a party I feel is on a very, a personal need to know basis kind of thing, even if it's a house party kind of thing, right? It's like I don't know. I don't know how to really tackle that. It feels very common that people will just kind of show up like, hi, yeah, this is just Derek, or hi, this is insert name here. We just kind of found him. Is he gonna hang with us?
That's what scared me the most. I didn't really want him there, but agreed to let him stay in my laundry room for a little while. But a little while turned into a little while longer.
In the laundry room?
I think he was there for about 2.5 weeks.
What?
One day I confronted Justin about the guy, and how about he scared me. Justin confessed that the guy had just gotten out of prison for murder.
Nice.
I was livid that he decided to pawn this guy off on me. While he was in my house, he was doing meth and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh my
I could
god, no,
hardly
bro.
sleep. I was so scared and nervous.
Bro, this is some r/never happens stuff. Like my friend just dumped off this random on me, and then the random, he's just this wild look in his eye, and he looks like he's been to hard prison, not like rich guy Bernie Madoff prison, but like hard prison. And then he just stayed in my laundry room, and he started doing all this stuff. And bro, where's the police? Where's your family? Like, what? I feel, why didn't you say, hey, look, man, sorry, but I ain't really got no groceries. I was on the, sorry. Are you able to go somewhere else? But then again, I guess, being trapped in your own home, feeling, fearing for your life. I mean, that, yeah. I don't know. This reads like r/never happened. Like, actually, though.
One day he approached me saying he needed a ride to an Indian reservation in California.
Okay,
he was
sure.
very pushy, so I agreed. I had planned on driving him to Ontario, Oregon, which is about 15 minutes away from Payette, and leaving him at the truck stop. But he was adamant about not stopping. On the drive, I kept noticing the guy reaching under his seat, over and over. Eventually, I was able to get a glance at what he was reaching for. It was a big framing hammer.
Nice.
At this point, I realized how serious this was. As we are leaving...
No. See, as a dude, you invoke the power of the dude friendship, and you guilt trip your buddy. You gaslight him because he's the one who brought him to your house in the first place. He's riding shotgun in the car, and it's his duty to come with you. You don't have to do this alone at that point. You pull up the bro code subsection, and you tell your buddy that he is contractually obligated to go on an adventure, to quest with you. This is how this works. This is how you travel in numbers.
Ontario. He tells me he must take a leak, and let's pull over on this dirt road.
Nice.
I was positive that if I pulled off, he was going to beat my head in with a hammer. So I refused. I told him I knew a better place to go.
No. You hand him the bottle.
The guy was very frustrated that I wouldn't pull over. We found the store in John Day, Oregon, which was about 2 hours from home. But when he got out of the car to go inside, he took my keys.
Nice.
I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. When he came back out, he started bragging about the stuff he stole. He had some snacks, a drink, and a pocket knife.
But here's the thing, though. If he stole the keys, then you can just be like, all right, that's your problem now. Sure, you're stuck in Oregon, but then you call your buddy or your family. Like, so in that situation, he takes the keys, right, so you don't go away. And then he goes inside. Guess I'm going to McDonald's. I'm going to go to the nearest police station. I'm going to go to the local Wally World and lose myself in the aisles of Hot Wheels. That sounds like I need to not be there, because when he returns and he has stolen stuff and then he gives me the key, then suddenly it's like, okay, well, now he expects me to drive off. No. You get to do this. This is on you now.
But he was showing off. After a while, in a small town of Lakeview, Oregon, we had to stop at a church to get some gas vouchers, as we didn't have any money, and my car was low on gas.
I've never heard of this.
To get the voucher valid, we had to go to the police station. He wanted to get the gas voucher in my name, but I refused. So we had to do it in his name. Once again, as we walked in, he took my keys. But shortly after they checked his ID, it turned out he had a warrant for his arrest.
Nice!
As soon as I got my keys back, I got the heck out of there as fast as I could. Outside of Lakeview, there's a small town called Cedarville, California, where luckily I had friends. I was only able to find one of them when I visited him at work.
I love that. Yeah, this definitely reads like a Reddit post, 100%, because he just so happened to have family in the area.
I talked to my friend Tim and explained my situation. He was able to get me enough money to get home, and thinking back on it, I realized how lucky I am to be alive.
Yes.
If I would have pulled off on that road, I most likely would have been dead.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you wanted to kill me and take my car. I'm thankful that I'm still alive and forever grateful that I had some sense not to pull over.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're dunking on this a little bit. Like, this definitely reads like some r/, like, you know, like r/no sleep, right? But I mean, even if it is like fictional, right? Even if this is r/never happened, r/no sleep, right? Like, the wisdom you can pull from this is that if your buddy decides to do something like this, you need to question your friendship with them, right? No friend worth their weight's gonna do that to you, right? Even then, as well, you can say, hey man, he's got to go to California. You're coming with me. Like, for this to happen week after week after week, right? Calling officers, because clearly law enforcement was the answer in the end. In a situation like this, especially if somebody is doing some interesting substances in your own house, right? I mean, because at that point you could be found accomplice, or you could be found guilty by association in some way. I mean, tactfully and carefully talking to law enforcement seems like this is going to be the resolution, to which it was in the end, right? You know, being able to go, hey, we need a gas voucher. Hey, sorry, I can't have it in my name though. And then thus he uses his name. They find out they have a warrant, and then they snap him up, right? Like, being tactful, being calm seems to prevail in the end. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, it was fun. I could see that being something on Reddit, 100%.
I'm a 23-year-old woman who grew up in a small town in Idaho. My story takes place a few years ago. The county fair was a real big deal in my area. They would put on big events and shows and bring in some fun rides and attractions.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the few times we had excitement in our quiet little area. I remember I used to love attending the demolition derby and hypnotist show at the county fair every single year. My cousins Jennifer and Kristen would go with me, and this particular year was no exception. We planned to meet up at the fairgrounds around 1 p.m. to get good seats for the hypnotist show on Saturday. We would also have some fun at the fair until the demolition derby that night. I couldn't drive yet at the time, so I arranged for my dad to drop me off at the fairground and pick me up later that night. He agreed and dropped me off at the fairgrounds an hour early. I decided to kill the time by wandering around to the art display. It was in a small barn-like building toward the front of the fairgrounds, so there I was admiring all of the paintings, drawings, and photography that had been around. I started to get the strange feeling like I was being watched, though.
Mm-hmm.
I looked around and noticed very quickly a man standing not far from me. I remember thinking he was dressed strangely for the sunny 90-degree weather that we were having. He wore a black hoodie, black denim pants, and black shoes. He also had a painful-looking burn-like sore on his lip. I couldn't tell if he was staring at me or not because he had sunglasses on, but he smiled when I looked at him.
How about no? You want to talk about red flags, right? Okay, so like full disclosure, I usually wear all black, right? Black boots. I actually got to get more boots because my current boots are definitely worn out over like 2 years. Like, just they hurt my feet. Black jeans, black shirt, black jacket, hoodie, right? I mean, I wear all black, right? That in itself, I feel, is not necessarily a red flag. If you are inside, right, inside the display here, you are inside, somebody clearly has, like, it sounds like hoodie up, right? Like, somebody's clearly, like, trying to be, like, sneaky, so to speak, right? Like they're trying to avoid the Payday 2 camera. And you can't, like, you know, see their eyes. And when they're acknowledged, their response is elation, smile, happiness, joy, etc. That should be sending up some red flags, right? Like, it's different if, like, you're just, you know, oh, hi, I'm enjoying this art exhibit, right? Or, like, but the fact that it's when you look at somebody like that, when you just look, when you acknowledge them, and their response is going to be that they were noticed, that strikes up red flags to me.
He just stood there smiling at me until I waved politely and turned to leave. Just as I was beginning to move, the man walked toward me. Hello, my name is Jeremy, he spoke quickly.
Hi, Jeremy. Have you considered 6 feet, my guy? You can't say that in Idaho because people get irrationally angry. Source: had a family member go into a large grocery store, and they were wearing funny masks because this was a little after the virus, but they still wore them, right? And this older dude, I guess probably in his 50s, just got super angry, like fist shaking, yelling angry at my family. Dude, just, oh god. As much as my brain automatically assumes, just say 6 feet, bro. I realize that's probably one of the quickest way for people to haul off and hit you in this state.
And his movements were jerky as he kept reaching out his hand to shake mine.
No.
What's your name? Getting a weird vibe, but deciding he was probably harmless, I decided to try and be nice.
My immediate instinct was to shitpost, "Hi, my name is Jeremy," and then just go back and forth. But I feel like that's the troll in me coming out, because that's probably one of the fastest way to actually escalate behavior. Returning in a clearly mocking sense is the fastest way to escalate a situation like this.
Hello, Jeremy. My name is Chloe, I said with a polite smile. I noticed more burn-like sores on his palm as he reached out to shake my hand, which did gross me out a little bit.
Ugh.
It's nice to meet you. The man named Jeremy walked away without a word after that.
Nice.
I shrugged off the experience and checked the time. Seeing as I was supposed to meet my cousin in about 15 minutes, I decided to go wait in the spot where we were supposed to meet. As I left the building, I saw Jeremy standing by the door texting on his phone.
Oh no.
I was a bit of an awkward teenager, so I pretended not to notice him as I walked past him into the grounds. Just a few steps behind me, Jeremy started walking in the same direction.
Yeah, that doesn't go well. I mean, to be fair, I kind of do this as well in terms of just like not acknowledging people. Like people they're kind of irrelevant to whatever I'm doing at the time, right? Like think fat electrician talking about going into like a Shields or an Aldi's, and it's like, I just want to get in, I want to get my crap, and I want to get out, right? I mean, that's what I do, right? Like I'll show up to a store and I'll go immediately to like the 3 seconds I want to go, and then I just leave, right? People are inconsequential to me at that point. Now, and I do this not as like chivalry, but I do it as just like a nice gesture, right? I'll hold the door open for people. If I see someone coming, I'll just hold the door open. I don't expect any thanks or anything like that. It's just like, here, I have made your life easier. It's nothing, not some weird gender thing. It's not some weird chivalry thing. It's just, here, hi, I'm gonna hold open the door for you. And sure, if you acknowledge me, cool. If not, whatever. I hold the door open once you're in, I kind of just go about my day, right? Like, I don't know. Not acknowledging people is kind of what I do, and I think that might actually off-put people to me because I'm so like driven to just do a thing or do the things, right? Like I show up, like I want to go to electronics, card section. I want to go over to arts and crafts. Maybe I want to get like paintbrushes or something, and then cool, these 3 spots didn't have what I want. All right, I'm leaving, right? Where other people want to sit around, they want to just loll around, they want to just kind of engaged, just kind of want to exist. I got places to be, okay? I can make it to Shields. I can make it to several other stores in the same span that someone's in one store.
After a while, I started feeling a bit awkward with him walking so closely behind me.
Yes.
So I decided to stop and let him pass. I turned to enter a booth selling jewelry and pretended to admire its wares, but Jeremy stopped walking too. He leaned against a food cart not far from me where I was, and started texting again.
The texting here is a red flag to me because that clearly means that this man is not operating alone if we're assuming malicious intent. And this is one of those things where if you do have a sus interaction like this, anything suspicious, you do look at somebody if they are on a phone and you assume that they are not acting alone.
I waited in the jewelry booth for what seemed like 10 minutes or more, and he still had not left. I decided to just leave, and just as I left the booth, Jeremy moved again right behind me. Hello, my name is Jeremy, he said again, reaching out to shake my hand. What is your name?
What chemical could be on his hand? I mean, we could assume it might be caustic too, but I mean, I think that might be correlation and causation and confusing those, because correlation is not causation. I wonder if there's something in his hand. It's not impossible. Yeah, I mean, the fact that this is a repeated gesture is raising a couple red flags.
I was so confused. He couldn't have forgotten that he had already introduced himself to me.
No, he didn't.
It was literally 10 minutes ago. I thought maybe he might be joking, so I let out an awkward, "Hello, Jeremy. It's nice to meet you again," I joked. "My name is still Chloe." Jeremy seemed to miss my humor and continued talking. Talking more interesting things, like, "Chloe is a pretty name. Are you from around here? How old are you? Don't judge me for being so dumb." I was from a small, trusting community, but I gave him the honest answer to his questions, despite getting a really weird vibe from the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that that's one of those that's learned behavior. Like if somebody creepy, quote unquote, asks your name, as you age, you will more likely be able to make something up on the spot, right? Like, hey, how are you? Like if somebody just, comes up and is like, I don't know, maybe they hear me in a store or something in Idaho and they're just like, hi, are you that Kip dude? Kip, like what? No, my name's Daniel. What are you talking about? I feel like the subtleties and intricacies of conversation and reading people with potentially malicious and or dangerous intent is something that is learned throughout, your life through repetition of social interactions, understanding how people operate, etc.
Thank you. I smiled. I'm 16 and yeah, I'm from the town just south of here. Just like before, once I answered his questions, Jeremy seemed to catch interest in something else and walked away without a word.
Any
I
information?
checked the time and noticed that I was now running late to meet Kristen and Jennifer. I made the rest of the way to where I was supposed to meet them without interruption. I told my cousins about what happened while I waited for them, and they also thought it was a little weird. We laughed it off and found our seats. The hypnotist show started, and we enjoyed the beginning, but it wasn't long before I started getting that feeling like I was being watched again. After a quick scan through the audience, I saw something I found disturbing. Jeremy, the guy from earlier, was now sitting a few rows behind us. He smiled and waved at me as soon as I recognized him. I noticed he was not alone this time.
Yep.
He was sitting with 3 other men, all dressed in black hoodies and sunglasses. I decided not to wave back, thinking he might have a crush I did not want to lead him on.
You could maybe say that.
I could tell they were watching us through the whole show. Kristen and Jennifer did too, and it made it hard for us to enjoy the humorous antics of the hypnotist. We decided to leave before the show was over and leave the fair for a while, hoping that the creepy men in the black hoodies wouldn't be there when we returned.
They won't.
We left for about an hour and a half to get lunch and spend some time at their house. At this time, we decided it might be safe to return to the fair. We walked back, and just as we walked through the gates of the fairgrounds, the same group of men in black hoodies approached us again. Jeremy walked straight up to me and said, "Hello, my name is Jeremy." Again reaching out to shake my hand. "What is your name?" My stomach was in knots. This just was not normal. I did not shake his hand this time.
You got to get to a public area. You got to go to a public area and make sure you secure your means of escape. Like you have to at that point. Talking, calling adult. The more witnesses there are, the harder it will be for people to do certain actions, right? They want to corner you. They want to separate you. They want the least amount of resistance possible for whatever it is they want to do. That's how that works. Make yourself big, make yourself loud, make yourself just known, right? At that point, if you can get, security as well, I think there'd be a very easy, look, this guy has harassed me 3 times. Can something be done about this? Can he just be away from us, please? 2 friends here are going to be witnesses as well, character witnesses, being able to we've seen this person, these people too. And generally I would assume, there's 4 people at a fair in odd clothes and they're trying to have some degree of anonymity with hoodies and sunglasses, right? I mean, enough of that smells fishy.
Wanting to get away from them quickly. "Hello, Jeremy. My name is Chloe," I said quickly as I walked past him, still trying to be at least polite. I still said nothing more and walked right past him into the crowd, not looking back. It would be hours before I saw Jeremy again. We wandered the fair pretty much without interruption for the remainder of our wait, and we went to the demolition derby at around 6 that night. We talked amongst ourselves and decided if we ran into Jeremy again, my cousin would pick up her phone and pretend I had a phone call from my dad, thus letting him know I was not alone even if we get separated.
Good idea.
We agreed, and as the show ended, we still had not seen him. We wandered around the games and rode a few rides. It was dark and nearing the time I was supposed to meet my dad. My cousin got a call from my dad on the phone. He instructed me to meet him at a restaurant a short walk away from the fairgrounds in a half an hour, and I agreed. Just as my cousins and I exited our last ride, I was once again approached by Jeremy. Alone this time, he walked right up to me and once again reached out to me to shake his hand.
Thus, deliberating, collaborating with each other, that too many people being seen at once is being seen as too aggressive and uncomfortable, therefore approaching singular this time.
Hello, I'm Jeremy, he said with a smile that split some of the sores around his mouth. What is your name? I was sick of this guy.
Why is this dude Nurgle?
Fake information this time. Hello, Jeremy, my name is Hannah, I said, looking to my cousin to cue her fake phone call.
Nice.
Jeremy simply shook his head. It isn't nice to lie, Chloe, he said before walking away. The three of us got chills after that encounter. I told my cousins I was tired and wanted to go home. They agreed and offered to walk with me to meet my dad.
Yes, good.
They had a curfew of their own, and I didn't want them to be late. And besides, it wasn't a far walk, so I declined their offer.
Oh, come on.
We parted with hugs, and I promised I would call them to confirm that I made it home safely.
Yeah, that's gonna be... Yeah, that's just being young. That's inexperience, yeah.
I then exited the fairgrounds and walked through the town to meet my dad. Not far away from the grounds, I noticed I wasn't alone. There was a tall man in a black hoodie following me. My heart skipped a beat because I recognized him as one of the men Jeremy had been with earlier. I quickened my pace, pretending not to notice him, when I saw half a block down the road was even more disturbing. Another one of the three men with Jeremy was standing by a sidewalk ahead of me. I was getting really alarmed, so I crossed the street and walked on the other side. The two men in hoodies kept up pace with me on the other side of the street, and I heard one of them make a whistling noise, though neither of them said anything.
There it is, yeah.
I was nearing the post office when Jeremy came into my vision, at the end of the sidewalk in front of me. I was really starting to get scared. What were they doing out here? The place I was supposed to meet my dad was still far away, and I didn't really want to be on this street alone anymore. So I quickly ducked into the post office. They were about to close, but there was a man and his son leaving. I quickly explained what was going on and asked them if they could walk with me. I hoped seeing that I wasn't alone would scare the stalkers into leaving me alone. They agreed and I walked out with them, but Jeremy and his gang were nowhere to be seen.
That's being a good Samaritan. Like, I mean, obviously, you need to take any sort of situation like that with a grain of salt, especially if someone's asking you to do something. But I mean, contextually, just like, sure, we will go to this restaurant. We will go to this public venue. Good, solid good Samaritan status.
The friendly people I met at the post office walked me all the way to the restaurant where I met my dad and told him the whole thing. My dad called the police and I explained again what had happened. The report was filed, but Jeremy and his friends in the black hoods were never found.
Yeah, and they won't. That is a crime of opportunity that at that point has been passed. I mean, there was organization to that. I mean, I feel like there's clear intent in mind there. Thankfully everything resolved. I think that quick thinking even he salvaged it, right? Like not going with friends, going alone, being able to duck in the post office and then asking for help, right? The fact that asking for help just really solidified that, honestly. I will, however, not that I'm trying to help out these interlopers, whatever these figures are. Maybe having the dude that looks like the great unclean one, probably not the best idea if you're trying to build like a charismatic rapport, right? Probably not, right? Unless, like, once again, he might have chemical or something on his hand. It's entirely possible. I don't know. It's I don't know why the dude's just the great unclean one. I don't get it. That one's a strange one.
Thanks for listening to these creepy and allegedly true horror stories from Idaho. As always, if you enjoyed these stories, please be sure to hit that like button, as it helps me out a ton. The more likes this episode gets, the more YouTube promotes it, and that really helps the swamp grow. If you're new to the swamp, why not join us? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss a new episode, as I upload them nearly every single day on all things natural and supernatural. If you have a story that you would like to share from your state, or just something different in general, be sure to submit your scary story at swampdweller.net, or the email you can find in the description down below. I would love to share your story with everyone here in the swamp. It's stories like yours that really help keep this show going on a daily basis. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating over there, as it really helps me grow. And if you're on the go and don't have YouTube Premium, but still want to download and listen to your favorite Swamp Dweller scary stories no matter where you are, absolutely free, you can download them from Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and pretty much anywhere else you find your favorite podcast online. It's absolutely free to do so, and always will be. If you would like to support the Swamp outside of hitting that like button, subscribing, and checking out the podcast, maybe check out the merch store. I've got t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, and more. I'd love to see you guys wearing some cool Swamp threads. Be sure to join me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you guys for always supporting the Swamp, and I'll see you guys soon.
I mean, honestly,
another creepy episode.
I feel like I could make a Kip face mask merch. I feel like I could do that. I feel that'd be really funny. I like this. I really liked this. Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for such an amazing video. I've watched Swamp Dweller a few times, and it's really cool to know that they have other platforms and stuff like Apple Podcasts, etc. In the description down below, you will see a link to this original video and his original channel. If this definitely piqued your interest, I recommend checking him out. I've watched some of his other videos. I thought they were super cool, and figured, yeah, let's promote someone who I think is really cool, right? So thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it. Let me know if this was insightful to the Idahoan perspective, or if you found this interesting. Appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.